As we move into the new normal in the workplace, firms across the region are having to develop policies and engagement strategies to ensure those workplaces are safe and helping to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Governments have a big role to play here, but it's typically at the workplace level that things like vaccination mandates and safe distancing strategies can really have their intended impact across the whole of society. Now, this gets even more complicated because employees have such a wide range of different degrees of interest in safe distancing measures in the workplace and everywhere in society. Here in Singapore, there has been some excellent coordination between the tripartite partners of employer groups, unions and government, but it's likely HR leaders who will still be at the coalface when they're implementing these strategies. Mayank, do you have any advice for them at this pivotal time in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic?
We, like you said, Paul, we've been lucky in Singapore in terms of certainly. I think there's been a lot of government um, direction and top-down kind of very clear uh, policies, frameworks in terms of how, as a society, we needed to deal with this pandemic. So it's not just the workplace, it's not just the employers, but it's also what we do in schools, what we do in the community, also then bears upon the response. And so I think because the government has been very coordinated in its response across the various facets of the economy.
And how different do you expect workplaces and working cultures in Singapore to be from what we might have known prior to 2020?
It's a good question. I think it's um, hard to be crystal ball gazing in at this time with so much change going on. But certainly, I think one of the things that we did is we actually asked the same question to our community. So we were fortunate to get over 1,000 responses. So we essentially asked them, what do you think would be some of the changes, and what would be some of your top priorities for this year? And the first thing that came up was certainly managing employee engagement and retention. I think certainly, I think a lot of organizations are feeling that certainly the engagement levels have suffered over the course of the pandemic, and that's showed up in various ways. It showed up in terms of some productivity challenges. It showed up in terms of some disengagement, as well as in terms of um, higher attrition. So I think that's one of the challenges that we will have to continue to face going forward.
The HR industry in Singapore has become significantly more professionalised over the past 5 years, thanks in no small part to the work of IHRP. Now, how has that helped HR professionals to deal with the unprecedented events over the last few years?
There's no one magic bullet that's out there, and I think we need to um, do kind of look at it as in combination with everything else that we've been trying to do in the HR ecosystem here in Singapore. So certainly, I think one of the things that we've emphasized a lot on is on continual learning and continual education, right? And this is something the universities, the polytechnics, the private training providers do an exceptionally good job here in Singapore to ensure that our workers continue to be upskilled, continue to learn beyond school, and this will continue to be the case for HR as well. So I think recently the minister for education made a statement to say that we would expect 500,000 of our workers to go through some form of training every year, right? Just in order to just ensure that they upskilled and they continue to be employable for the future. And that's a tall order. And so certainly I think it's the same for HR. What can HR do to continue to upskill, to learn, uh, and unlearn sometimes even skills which we know are out there. So digital skills, skills around curating the employee experience, skills around providing the internal marketing, the internal support, and at the same time providing, ensuring that where the company is looking at their business as beyond profit, right? They're looking more at purpose. How can HR help and support these companies to identify meaning behind some of these sustainable initiatives that the company has embarked on?
And finally, Mayank, do you have any advice for HR leaders outside of Singapore where vaccination rates have not been as strong and where there is a measure of resistance to some of those changes that we've talked about in Singapore? How can they set policies to get the best out of their workforce while also keeping it and others safe?
Some of the things that we've gone through here in Singapore would apply, right? I think certainly um, our vaccination mandates it's something that a lot of countries are looking at, encouraging more and more of their population to get vaccinated. Currently, that's the best defense that we have against the virus. How HR professionals here helped enforce some of these mandates. I think a lot of communication with employees. As I mentioned, we do have a group of employees who have not been vaccinated for various reasons, and it's important for us to understand the reasons why, to engage them, to provide the right support. Some of that support includes ensuring that if they have been misinformed, because there's a lot of misinformation, fake news out there in social media in particular, then this is an opportunity to provide a balanced view of the vaccination situation and how it could benefit them.